Hi, welcome back. The next system that we're going to talk about is the muscular system, and so the word muscular has the word muscle in it, so you can probably pretty much figure out what that is, right? And so, if you remember in the last section, when we were doing the skeletal system, we talked about the fact that the skeletal system can't work by itself. Okay, it needs something to move it, and the something to move it are the muscles. And so in high school, you're going to also learn that the nervous system plays a big part in muscles moving to help move bones as well. Okay, it's probably a little bit beyond what we're going to do in our short week of body systems, but know that systems by definition all work together. And if one of those systems is damaged or has some kind of defect in it, it can affect a lot of other systems, if not all of the systems. So let's look at the muscular system. So there are 600 muscles in your body, and here we have what, six? So memorizing the muscles isn't the whole point of this. It's just to sort of know what their function is and why they're really important. Okay, so we're going to look at real quick. We're going to look at the fact that there are three types of muscles in your body. And so there are different kinds of muscle cells. And so those different kinds of muscle cells will make up different types of tissues, and those different tissues will make up different organs. And so we're going to look at the first one, which is cardiac muscle. So, cardiac muscle, by definition, is muscle that only occurs in the heart. It's actually heart muscle. It looks different than the other two muscles. And why? Because it does a different thing. Okay. So, cardiac muscle only occurs in the heart. Second type of muscle is skeletal muscle, right? And so it has the word skeleton in it. So guess where that's attached to? So it's attached to bones. And so you have control of skeletal muscles, right? You don't really have control of cardiac muscles. You have control of skeletal muscles, though. And then the third type of muscle is smooth muscle tissue. You do not have control of that either. That is in your bladder. It is in your stomach, in your digestive tract, that helps push your food through your body as it gets out the nutrients. And even in a womb, in a uterus, right, when a woman is pregnant and she's going to have a baby, there are muscles in there that she doesn't have a whole lot of control over. Okay, and so those are cardiac muscles only in the heart. Skeletal muscles is to make the bones move, and smooth muscle are muscles that you don't have any control over. Okay, and on to this next slide. And so, one of the cool things that muscle has. This is why, if you are an athlete, if you're doing anything actually, but specifically an athlete or a musician where you're using your muscles for specific things, muscles have something called muscle memory. And so muscle memory is sort of like the more you use it, the better you get at it. And that's the reason why when you practice shooting a lot, or if you are a dancer, right, you practice. And if you're doing ballet and you're on point, you use the same muscles, and those muscles have muscle memory, right? And so that becomes very, very important, because that's how you become good at things, is you practice over and over and over. Muscle memory is a big part of that. And so when we tell you practice makes perfect, we're not kidding. Exercising. So when you exercise muscles, they get bigger, they get stronger, they're more flexible. Okay, so that makes sense. If you don't use muscles, they're going to shrink, and they're going to become weaker. So some of you have actually found this out. So if you ever broke a bone, if you broke an arm or a leg and you couldn't walk on it, or your arm was so straight that you couldn't move it at all, when you had that taken off, your muscles had shrunk, and that shrinking is called atrophy. Okay, and so your muscles will atrophy if you don't use them. And astronauts also have the same issue. Okay, they go into space for months on end, and there's very little gravity in space. Remember, there is gravity. That it's no such thing as no gravity, but there is such thing as microgravity. So there's a small amount of gravity, and so what's not happening is they're not pushing their muscles against anything. So their muscles aren't working. And they have exercise equipment that they have to strap themselves into because they know that this is going to be a big problem. And in fact, when Russia's astronauts came back in the when they were coming back in the 60s and into the 70s, I believe, they wouldn't let their astronauts walk out because they didn't want them to be seen as weak because their muscles don't work as well. Okay. So exercising is a really good thing. It's good for your heart and it's good for your skeletal muscles. Some fun facts about muscles. Okay. When you shiver, when you get cold, or even when you get goosebumps, you get all of these little pokey things in your arms, right? Your hair stands up. The reason why your hair stands up is because the follicles have little muscles around them and they expand and they contract. And if you're cold, they contract and that helps to produce heat. So it helps to keep you warm. Another little fun fact is that in order to smile, you need 17 muscles. If you're going to frown, it takes more. It takes more muscles to frown, right? So it's just easier to smile. And then the last thing is that the strongest muscle is in our jaw. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because eating is sort of kind of important to us. And so that's going to wrap up the section on muscles. Remember, I'm going to come back. I'm going to put this, I can't find the beginning of it. Sorry. I'm going to put this underneath where it says the muscular system, and it will be just this screencast for this short lesson. Okay. So I hope that this makes things a little bit easier for you. And if you need to, watch it again. Ask me any questions you need. Thank you. Bye bye.